Margaret is an American expatriate living in Tokyo. During the day, she works at a Japanese academy teaching prospective flight attendants how to speak English. She spends her nights getting drunk with fellow expatriates Ines and Liam and seeks out submissive sexual encounters with random men in the city's numerous love hotels. Her misadventures cause her to sometimes show up to work in a daze and disheveled, drawing the concern of her manager, Nakamura. However, Nakamura sees something of her younger self in Margaret and is sympathetic. One day, Margaret crosses paths with a Yakuza enforcer named Kazu, and the two begin a relationship. Margaret is at first taken aback by Kazu's revelation that he is about to get married, but she continues with him after he admits that his marriage is more out of duty than love. Margaret confides to Kazu that she does not have a family. Her father left when she was a child, her mother died from cancer, and she has a schizophrenic brother. She came to Japan to be alone. On the day of graduation for Margaret's students at the flight academy, Kazu asks Margaret to spend the entire day with him in Kyoto. Initially reluctant to skip graduation, Margaret agrees when he says he will not get another day, and they take the train. He brings her to the Kiyomizu-dera temple and shows her the Buddha's womb, a stone illuminated at the end of a pitch-black tunnel. Kazu explains the symbolism of being reborn by reaching the stone and says that he has brought Margaret there, hoping to help her let go of her trauma, but Margaret seems unaffected. On the train ride back to Tokyo, Kazu leaves the train while Margaret is asleep, leaving her despondent and desperate to find him when she wakes up. When she returns to work the next day, she finds that she has been dismissed and replaced. Margaret spirals down further when Ines reveals to her that she is leaving Japan. Following numerous, meaningless sexual encounters, Margaret spots Kazu with his family by chance one day and follows him into a love hotel. Kazu reprimands Margaret for following him, telling her nothing can happen between them. When Margaret insists that she loves him, they have sex one more time before he sends her away, leaving him saddened and conflicted. When Margaret returns to her apartment, she finds an eviction notice. She desperately takes a job as a bar hostess for drunken businessmen, but finds herself unable to participate and leaves without getting paid. Now homeless and at rock bottom, Margaret is found on the street by Liam's girlfriend Louise, who reveals that Liam has been deported. After sharing a drink with Louise, Margaret gets drunk and begins wandering around Tokyo aimlessly at night until she notices a strange man following her. She asks him to take her to a love hotel. She tells him that she likes to be submissive. On his orders, she strips naked and lies down, the stranger then tying her hands and feet to the bed. When he suggests that he could kill her, she begs him to do it, but Kazu comes into the room to rescue her, having followed her. Grateful for being rescued, Margaret decides to start anew by leaving Tokyo. On the plane, Margaret notices Tamiko, one of her former students, as one of the flight attendants, and they smile at each other while Tamiko demonstrates safety procedures before the plane takes off. Margaret calls Kazu to tell him she now understands the symbolism of the Buddha's womb and finally feels reborn, saying goodbye to him for good. As the plane ascends into the clouds, Margaret's reflection deepens, carrying with it the weight of her journey. Tokyo, for all its chaotic allure and vibrant distractions, had become a crucible for her, testing the limits of her resilience and forcing her to confront the void she had long sought to escape. Though she had arrived in Japan seeking solitude, what she found instead was a mirror to her inner struggles, amplified by the city's unrelenting pulse. Margaret's call to Kazu echoes in her mind. There's a sense of closure in her words, a finality that underscores her transformation. The bond she shared with Kazu was fleeting, yet profound. His quiet strength and ability to see past her defenses left an indelible mark on her, even as his own obligations prevented him from fully stepping into her life. For Margaret, Kazu became both a guide and a reminder of the complexity of human connection. Imperfect, transient, but still deeply meaningful. Her acknowledgement of the Buddha's womb now symbolizes a personal awakening, a moment where she has begun to reconcile her past traumas with the possibility of a future unburdened by them. On the plane, the sight of Tamiko, one of her former students, brings a bittersweet pang of emotion. Watching Tamiko move gracefully through the cabin, demonstrating the same confidence Margaret had tried to instill in her, is both humbling and inspiring. It reminds Margaret that, despite her personal struggles, she was able to leave a positive impact on someone else's life. Tomiko's presence is a quiet affirmation that Margaret's time in Tokyo was not wasted. It held moments of significance, however small, that contributed to her eventual decision to move forward. As the hours pass on the flight, Margaret allows herself to replay the key moments of her journey, each one a thread in the tapestry of her transformation. She thinks of Nakamura, whose unexpected compassion often felt like a lifeline in her darkest moments. Nakamura's subtle encouragement reminded Margaret that even amidst her self-destruction, there were still people who saw her potential and believed in her capacity for change. Margaret also remembers her friends Ines and Liam, whose lives intertwined with hers in both meaningful and fleeting ways. Inez's decision to leave Japan mirrored Margaret's own growing realization that staying in Tokyo was no longer viable. Liam, though reckless and self-destructive in his own way, embodied a part of Margaret she could no longer deny, a yearning for connection beneath layers of pain. Their absences leave a void, but also clarity. The people she surrounded herself with were reflections of her own inner turmoil, and their departures signify the shedding of old patterns. Margaret's descent into darkness in the final days before her departure remains vivid in her memory. The stranger in the Love Hotel, the harrowing experience of begging for an end, and Kazu's last-minute intervention stand as a stark reminder of how close she came to losing herself entirely. That moment, terrifying and raw, becomes a turning point in hindsight, a catalyst for the choice she makes to leave Tokyo and start anew. The symbolism of the Buddha's womb continues to resonate as Margaret embraces the possibility of rebirth. The stone at the end of the dark tunnel is no longer just an abstract concept, but a metaphor for her own journey. Tokyo was her tunnel, filled with moments of light and shadow, love and loss, chaos and calm. Emerging on the other side, Margaret is not free from her pain, but she is no longer consumed by it. As the plane begins its descent, Margaret closes her eyes, allowing herself a rare moment of peace. Her future is still uncertain, but for the first time, she feels equipped to face it. She carries with her the lessons of Tokyo, the importance of connection, the power of self-forgiveness, and the strength to let go of what no longer serves her. Lost Girls in Love Hotels ends not with a definitive resolution, but with the quiet promise of transformation. Margaret's story is a reminder that healing is not linear, and the path to self-discovery is often fraught with setbacks and pain. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, there is hope. A hope that, like the stone in the Buddha's womb, shines faintly at the end of the darkness, waiting to be reached. Trying to forget her painful past, Margaret meets Kazu, a mysterious yakuza. Although it is dangerous for Margaret to be with Kazu, the young woman cannot control her heart. Margaret tries to find herself in the light of darkness and love. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.